Today we have on the show Dr. Avishkar, and I'm so happy that you decided to join me today to talk about all things real estate, investment, business, and also would love to talk about your profession. Um, so thank you for coming on the show.
I love it, Maritza. Thank you so much for having me. I love real estate and I love what I do. So I am glad to talk about all of it.
Love it. So just to start off, I know that you have been investing in real estate. What got you to start investing in real estate? Because you are a doctor by trade, right? And then so
Yes.
what spurred that interest, I guess?
You know, it's all about what I want to leave behind. It's like a lot of times we make money and we make money for ourselves, and I make decent money, and we're living fine. But I always think of what would happen if I was not able to make money. What would I do in that situation? And so I kind of always had this feeling that we need to do something. We need to diversify into some other form of either investments or business or whatever, and that's kind of what got me thinking initially. And I actually did explore a lot of different options. I was looking at online businesses. I was like, maybe I should set up an Amazon store.
Right.
Oh, there's money there, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. But I really kind of gravitated towards real estate because it's like a real tangible asset that you can own and you can hold, and it's something that I can really control. And the beauty of it is also the fact that you get tax benefits on it, and which you do not get with the other businesses that you own.
Right.
And so I kind of figured that that would be a nice way to do it. And it's sort of a lot of times people say that it's passive, but I think it's active in the beginning and then it becomes passive once you stabilize the assets. And that's what really got me into it. I was like, I can still do my doctor thing and I can still do real estate instead of going into some other business where I'm managing other teams and stuff.
Love it. And so what was your first investment in real estate? What got you to pull the trigger? Because the first one is always the hardest. So
Well, I will say the first investment was actually in a good course. I wouldn't say it was
really?
a property. Yeah. So I think what ends up happening is that when people try to get into real estate, they will look at other people buying, and in this day and age of social media, you'll see so many snippets about, oh, I bought this many $1 million of property and this and that. And people think it's very easy to do it. But
Right.
I think what ends up happening is that once you start getting into real estate, talking to people, you understand, well, you need to know a lot more. And there's a lot more that goes into the whole process of real estate than just going and buying a property and putting it under mortgage, putting a mortgage on it, right? Because essentially the way I buy real estate, the way I look at real estate is I buy it for cash flow first, and then I buy for appreciation second. But I think the way a lot of people look at any investment is from a point of view of appreciation rather than cash flow. And I
Yeah.
think this kind of comes in from the perspective of how we invest in stocks. We look at the stock value go up and we're like, but that's pure appreciation, that's not cash flow. You're not getting money you're not getting a paycheck every month into your bank account or into your mail, with the cash flow. It's just with the dividends from the stock markets. Now you can set it up like that, but a lot of people don't do that. And so what they're looking at is, how is the company appreciating? And so I think it's very important to understand that you really need some solid, good education before you start going into real estate, and that's what I invested in first. So it actually took me a lot of time and a lot of hours to kind of understand the whole concept of real estate, the whole concept of leverage, how to kind of use debt to your advantage. A lot of times people are scared of debt, and
Right.
so it takes time to understand these concepts. And so I took time and I understood it. And then of course, you always want to kind of start smaller and then scale up. At least that's my opinion. Some people don't do that. So my first investment in real estate was a course that I invested in. But I think eventually, if you talk about the assets that I bought, I think it was a duplex that we bought. And when I bought it, and I'll tell you this, because of the effort and the time that I'd put into my understanding and my education, I was not at all scared when I bought that asset. I was like, this is it. I know the numbers make sense. I know what I have to do with this asset. These are the right questions that I have to ask. This is the thing that I need to do. This is my team. let's go ahead and buy it. So there was like no, no phase where I was like thinking whether I should do it or not do it and questioning my decisions per se to buy it, because the numbers made sense for me and because of all the education that I'd put into the effort that I put into learning about real estate.
Yeah, that's great. And so, the main thing that I think most people, when they're trying to get into real estate, whether they're a doctor, a lawyer, or just in some other profession, and they are intimidated by what they don't know, right? And so I think you did what we all do, which is, well, typically, I mean, that's what I did too, is you get educated first to make sure that you're going to make a smart investment. And so, but how long did it take you, or how many offers, or how many properties that you have to look at to like these are the things that people don't talk about, but it's like
Oh
you have
yeah,
to
that's
comp.
true.
And how did you learn
Oh
that? How
my
many times did you
God.
have to do it before you decided to pull the
This,
trigger?
the game of real estate actually begins in the mind rather than actually on the property.
Right.
You have to kind of set your mind first. And I learned it. I mean, I had heard of people, I had heard of my mentor saying that you got to get your mindset right. And we were trying to work on that. I was like, yeah, that's all fine. I got my mindset right. Now I need a property. but
Right.
but when I started looking for properties, I was getting frustrated. We started investing last year and the market was hot as hell. And I'm
Yes.
telling you, there was no property to be had. And I was getting frustrated. And I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Should I change my market and look at a different market? And that would mean a lot of effort because you need to build a team in every market you're in. And I had a solid team there.
Right.
And then I was like, what should I do? This is getting frustrating because I want to buy an asset. I'm ready to pull the trigger, and there is no asset to be found. And so we had this discussion, and finally we decided, well, let's just keep pushing till we find the right asset. A lot of times there's a lot of waiting involved in this. It's not like ordering something off of Amazon. You go in, you
Right.
look for it, and you click and you buy it. Um, if you do that in real estate, that's the wrong way to do it. I think you need to wait. I think you need to understand your market. And all of this takes time. It's not like you go on Zillow and you look at a property and you just, say, okay, fine, I'm going to buy this. Well, where is the property located?
Right.
Who is your client base? It's essentially a business that you're buying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was frustrating for us initially, but then it's funny. We got the first property, and then in quick succession we got two more. And so it's just about just persevering with this thing and understanding that it's not like a paycheck wherein you're getting a paycheck either biweekly or monthly. It's going to happen in spurts and in random occurrences where you're going to find the right asset that you need to buy that meets your criteria, and so you really have to be patient with that and understand that that's the way it's played.
So what did you do in the waiting game, right? Because that's one of the most frustrating times is when you're actively looking for something. And it's not just real estate, it's business, it's whatever you do, right? You have a vision and a plan, and you're executing your plan, but it's not the goal is not happening as fast as maybe you would like, right? So what did you have to tell yourself to get you through that waiting period?
It was tough, man. It was very frustrating for me to kind of get through that. I was like, why is this not happening? This should happen now. This should have happened yesterday.
Yeah.
It was frustrating, but I think there is no way around it. I think I started looking at it this way. Look, I can either get frustrated about it and give up, or I can continue to persevere and, something will happen. So either you find a way or you make a way. I think that's the way to look at it. So I couldn't find a way in the market, but, eventually we kind of kept persevering and we made the way because now I had that once I bought the first duplex, I had that credibility with that with that broker, and then more things came in. And I think that part of the reason was also the fact that we were able to develop that relationships in the market and show that we're like a legit buyer and a legit investor, and we're not just dabbling. I think that's where that's what it all boils down to.
Great advice. And would you, when you had, I'm sure, discussions with your wife of where you're going to invest our money into, this duplex was the first one. And so moving on, was there any resistance from your wife? How did you convince her that this is what we're going to do? Because I'm sure uncertainty, especially with your spouse, it's like, well, should we, so what did you say? How did you convince her to, say investing in real estate is what we're going to do?
I think what ended up happening was that, I mean, she still doesn't understand real estate to the extent to which I understand real estate. But what ended up happening was I did introduce her to my mentors, and she was I encouraged her to actually go through the process because, we have to invest somewhere. Like we can put money in stocks, or we can leave it in the bank to depreciate,
Right.
or we can put it in some other asset. My asset of choice is real estate. There's money to be made everywhere. It's not like, real estate is the only way to make money. But I chose real estate, and I figured that, if she learns about real estate, that's going to ease the anxiety about investing in real estate. I think what ends up happening a lot of times is because it's a tangible asset, there's a mortgage attached to it. That kind of creates a layer of anxiety because of the extra debt that you're taking on the property. Um, but which is not there with stock markets, right? So you just put whatever you earn, you're putting your money in. But I think if you understand how this game of real estate is played, and I call it a game, man. If you don't gamify it, if you don't look at it like a game, it can become stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what helped, was helping her understand what we're doing and what's the basis of all of this, and getting her comfortable with, even the basic underwriting. She cannot underwrite like I do, but at least she understands where I'm coming from, and at least she understands that this is the process, this is the method behind the madness. So I would say that if anybody is facing resistance from their spouse, or they're apprehensive, first you have to make sure that you're aligning, because these decisions and processes, especially around money, can be very, very taxing
Mm-hmm.
emotionally and to the marriage. And I think you have to be on the same page as far as the finances go. Once that happens, you have to make sure that both parties understand what it entails. And the only way to understand is to kind of educate each other and understand, whatever each person's gaps are, and fill those gaps.
I love that. And another thing I wanted to ask you about was, you talked about stocks, investing in stocks or investing in a business like an Amazon store or possibly, real estate. So was the main thing that made you choose real estate, was it the depreciation from your taxes, or and you said also because of tangible asset, was there anything else? Were you just not sure? Because I know plenty of people that are doctors, accountants, lawyers, and they choose business, right? Whether it's an Amazon store or a brick and mortar type of business, they choose that. So I'm just curious what made you choose the real estate.
I don't know. I just sort of like real estate. And I'll be honest, I don't think my journey stops at real estate. And I've been very open about it. I don't think that I'm just going to, just focus on just one type of asset. And the reason why I say that is because you need to diversify. That's my opinion, at least. I firmly believe you should you should be invested in different asset classes that are unrelated, just like Warren Buffett says, so that there's a downturn in any particular asset class, you have the others to keep you afloat. So I don't say that doing business is wrong, or having an online store is wrong. I just think you need to start somewhere. You cannot start in 10 different on 10 different projects at the same time. You
Right.
have to start on one project. True, there's a concentration risk with that, but then that's where you really make the riches, and that's where you really get a deeper understanding of that asset class. There's nothing wrong in diversifying, which I will eventually. I know that for a fact, that I will be diversifying into other asset classes and maybe other businesses. But right now I choose real estate.
it's a good foundation, I would say.
Yeah.
Because a
Yeah.
lot of people think that real estate and business are like two different things, but the truth is real estate is a business, you know?
It is a business. It is a business. Well, I think the thing is that I just chose real estate and I kind of had a deeper understanding of it and I love it. So I'm doing it. And it's the amount of energy and effort that I put into this already. Um, that's why I just said, let's just leverage that and kind of move forward. But yeah, I am looking at other things, other businesses and other asset classes that I'm going to buy eventually in the future.
Love that. And so the other thing I wanted to ask was in regard, I know you started with smaller multifamily, but now you want to transition into large multifamily. So where did that decision come? Like, what sparked that interest?
So, I bought my first duplex. I was happy for 15 minutes and I was like, what next? Okay, this was fun. What's next?
Yep,
So then I got my next one and I was like, okay, what's next? Then I got the third one. I was like, okay, that's good, but this is not cutting it. This is not making it for me.
right.
And then I realized this is, small multifamily is not where I want to be. I want to be in large multifamily. And I really want to be able to own these assets. And I think it's a personal choice. I don't think there's anything right or wrong. There are pros and cons of every asset class, right? Any business, any asset class, there are going to be some benefits of having those and some disadvantages of having those. It's just about what you choose, what tickles your brain. And I think for me, it was large multifamily, and I just want to be in that large multifamily space, and that's why I chose that.
Love it. And so what are you looking for now? Like what are the kind of deals that you are interested in now?
So right now we're looking, actually, I think a lot of people think about large multifamily. They have to understand that there's a big part is actually forming a good team, a great team that works together to manage the asset, to kind of acquire the asset and everything. So we were lucky to have formed a great team, and it's four of us and we get along very well. And so right now we're looking at large multifamily, pretty much B, C class in A, B neighborhoods. We're looking in Columbus and in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Love it. And so who are you in the team? What is your zone of genius?
So I am clearly a visionary. I don't know if you've read Rocket Fuel. I'm clearly a visionary. I know that, and I love it. That that's just me. So my role is actually I'm focusing on raising money for the deals. So I'm going to try and get passive investors to invest with us in our deals. Having said that, obviously I want to oversee the other tasks also and kind of partner with my partners to make sure that the asset is running smoothly. And it requires some soul searching to understand what part of the team you want to be, what part you want to play, because every role is important and every role comes with its own responsibilities and its own quirks. So I know a lot of times people are attracted towards, say, raising capital, but even that's not easy. It's not like you just wave a magic wand and you have like $10 million in the bank to invest.
Right.
So it's sometimes it can be very difficult, but I clearly see myself aligning with that, especially for our own deals. I don't intend to raise capital for other deals. I think we want to keep it to our own deals, and so that's what we're focusing on.
Great. How did you find your team? Because you said you guys all get along very well, and so what positions are they taking over, and how were you able to find them?
So it's funny, actually, they found me. So, so we spread the word around. I spread the word around that, hey, I'm looking for large multifamily, a part of my other mentorships that I'm in. And some of the folks over there were like, oh, we're also interested in multifamily. And these guys are also interested in multifamily. So we got connected. And then we had a long period of discussions amongst ourselves to figure out how we're going to do this. And that is very important. And that is very critical because you really need to know what the other person's cadence is, what the other person's goals and aspirations are. Because if they don't align, it's going to be very difficult to work together.
Right.
If somebody wants to get $1 billion, the other person says, I'm happy with $1 million, the the goals are very different. And so the energy that the people will bring in are going to be very different. Nothing is wrong. I'm not saying $1 million is wrong and $1 billion is right, or vice versa. I'm just saying that the energies will be different. And so you need the energies to align before you can actually have a successful team. So I think our energies align in that way, and then we kind of sat on it. Really, believe me, it took us 3-4 months to actually get to know each other, and we're still learning about each other. It's not that it's all done and everything, but we kind of understand each other now much better than what we did before.
Right.
um, and we have kind of zoned in on what each person's going to do. We're focusing on each person's zone of genius and kind of work and leverage that basically to our advantage, because we want to make sure that we complement each other's skills rather than step on anybody's toes. So that's where we're at with our team.
Love it. And so you mentioned some goals, which I think is a really important part because if I don't know who the leader of your team is, I'm assuming it's you since everyone just you attracted everyone to you. But especially the leader, if the leader doesn't have big enough goals and someone else on the team has bigger goals, then it's like, well, can I really stay on this team long term, right? So, saying that, what are some of your goals, whether it's investments or financial goals, or it doesn't have to be only real estate, but like, what are some of the goals that you're striving towards? Because it looks like you are a true visionary where it's like, okay, I achieved this. Now what's next?
So I think the goals come in a stepwise fashion, right? It's my first goal is to get to financial independence, and that means that I'm not on the hamster wheel for money, and I can basically keep making money while I sleep. I think Warren Buffett said this, right? If you don't make money while you're asleep, you will die working. And I think that's so true. So that's the first goal. And then, of course, financially, of course, I want to, sky's the limit. I want to get wherever I can get. I told my team, look, we need to be the team that everybody comes to sell assets in Columbus and Cincinnati. We need to be the number one team that people come to and sell it. So that's very clear for me, as far as buying assets in Columbus go, and Cincinnati. But I think it's important to understand, put all of this in perspective, right? What are we doing all of this for? Is it
Right.
is it for personal significance? Is it for having more time with family? And what's the overarching drive behind all of this? And I don't think there's any right or wrong answer here, but I think it requires some soul searching on the part of people who are trying to set goals as to what's driving these goals. Not just setting goals and saying, hey, this is my goal, but well, why is that your goal?
Right.
What are you trying to achieve with that goal? And for me, it's been, like I said, I just want to make sure that you know I don't have, if I'm not there, then my family is provided for. That's my first and primary goal. And the next goal is, of course, significance, finding that significance and doing something um, for this world. And I look at it this way. I don't need $10 million, $20 million. That's not going to change my lifestyle. I have, I can put food on the table. I have a car I drive. I have a house to live in. What else do I need? I have kids who are happy, who are getting educated, right? But I think beyond that, I want to be able to help the the society at large. I want to, at some point in time in the future, not right now, I want to start a charity and help other people. That's
That's
that's my
beautiful.
goal.
That's beautiful. What kind of people are you trying to help with the charity?
I'm probably going to start a charity to for hunger, like to help people provide food and stuff. So that's probably what it's going to be, because I know there's so many people who go hungry every day, and I think that's one of the basic necessities that needs to be met. And in the future, that's my goal, is to start that.
That's amazing because I know you also have a podcast and it's about obesity. So I was watching that.
Well, I used to have a podcast on obesity. I stopped it last year because it was getting too busy for me. But guess
Good.
what? I'm starting another podcast. I cannot stay away from the mic.
That's
So I'm starting another podcast, and this time it's going to be on finances. It's called The Immigrant Doctor, and I'm trying to kind of, get this perspective of investments to other physicians and other medical professionals, especially people who are coming from other countries.
right.
Because I'll tell you this, the idea of debt was very different for me growing up versus what it is now. And so, and that's just one of the examples. That's just one of the facets, right? There's so many other things in investing in money that I had to learn and I had to change my thinking about uh, before even starting investing. And so I want to bring that to other folks who have, come here and are looking to now invest money and help them get to their financial freedom.
So that's amazing because I think a lot of people, I'm also an immigrant, right? I came here from Colombia and I know you came from India, right? I don't think you were born in
Yeah.
the US.
Yes. No, I wasn't.
And so how old were you when you moved here from India if you weren't born here?
No, I actually moved here a few years ago, actually. I moved
Oh,
here,
okay.
what, 6, 7 years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago. So it's not been that long, but I think even then, the learning has to happen, right? Because finances in India are very different. The way we look at it, at least my family looked at it, was very
Right.
different from the way I look at it now.
Right. So what are some of the things that had to change? Because I think about my parents. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I came here when I was a baby, so they made that decision for me. Thank God they did. And I think about how, like, when you're older and you're an adult and you're uprooting your life from one country to the US, that's a difficult process, to go through. So how was that process for you? Like what did you have to change from your mindset or your beliefs from India to now living here in the US?
For me, it wasn't that hard because I knew that I wanted to be here. It was a conscious decision on my part. It wasn't that my parents wanted me to be here. Actually, they did not want me to be here. They were like, why are you going there? What are you going to achieve there that you cannot achieve here? So it was a conscious decision on my part to come here. And I'm glad that I made that decision. Um, Nothing changed in my mind prior to coming here, but after coming here, I really understood a lot of things, not just finance related. I actually learned about myself because when you're living in that environment with a family, there are a lot of other social dynamics that happen and they influence your thinking. But when I moved here, I was away from everybody, right? And I was my own independent self, and that's when I understood myself better. I understood what I wanted, what I didn't want, what aligned with me, and what didn't align with me, without the social pressures. And so I think that was important for me to understand.
What are some things that you learned, if you don't mind me asking? Just because I mean, same thing with me is I moved away recently. And there is a difference when you move away from everyone and you're, just making a way by yourself, obviously with my spouse. Um, uh, Things change. Your mind changes, the way you think about yourself changes. So what are some of the things that you said that maybe you thought about yourself and you realized about yourself now that you moved here and kind of doing your own thing?
Well, I think one of the most important things that I learned was that debt is neither good or bad. It just depends on how you use it. I think
Right.
if you can leverage it to grow something which you are fairly confident about, I won't say 100% certain because there is no certainty. But if you're fairly confident about what you're doing, and you can leverage that to a great deal, and I think that's phenomenal. That's something amazing that this country has to offer. Um, the other thing is really understanding, underpinning all of this desire. This it's not even materialism anymore, right? When you come here, at least for me, when I came here, Even just going to the grocery store was overwhelming because there are so many varieties of so many things, and you're just bombarded with so much of sensory
Right.
stimuli, so many sensory stimuli, right? So, but understanding what you want and what you don't want, like what are your basic desires, what are you trying to achieve? I think that was an important part of it, like sort of self exploration of understanding, okay, this is what I want to work towards, and this is what I don't want to work towards. I think that's at a psychological level, that's what it was. But at a financial level, like if you talk about finances, I think understanding how to use debt, how to leverage debt to your advantage, understanding how finances work in this country, understanding the whole concept of money, understanding, that putting money in the bank is just a waste of money. You're like losing money by putting money in the bank. Understanding all of this takes time, and it's hard to comprehend because money itself is like it's a concept that we created, right, as humans. So it's hard to understand these concepts about how money really flows and why money should keep flowing. um and so yeah, it took some time and effort.
For sure. And one thing that you're bringing up, and I was going to ask you about the immigrant doctor because I really like that. I like how you branded it, and I'm an immigrant myself. So, obviously I do know a lot of immigrants. And one thing that you mentioned that I have heard other people mention, so I came here when I was a baby. So I wasn't like raised, and so I'm really an American, is the truth, right?
Sure.
But other people that were raised in other countries, they say the same thing. When their countries are like third world countries or something, they say you just go to the grocery store, and the fact that everything is full, like, there's not in Colombia, I know, like if you want to buy a pen, you can buy one pen. My mama would always tell me that you can buy one pen. Here you buy in
Right.
bulk. And so um so that I think correlates a lot with what you said before with like the hunger and the fact that you had an obesity podcast. You want to create a charity that helps kind of solve that hunger, and I think it really has to do with your background. Is there something that really motivates you to try to eliminate, I guess, or not eliminate, but at least decrease the pain that some people feel when, I mean, you don't have anything to eat. That's just a basic
you
need.
know I have thought about this, and I think what I've come to conclude is that so I want to set up a charity primarily for to fight hunger in India, and part of the reason, or actually most of the reason why I want to do that, um, is because I want to give back to India in some way. At the end of the day, I know that this country has given me enough immense opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for whatever what I'm offered over here. It's a beautiful, amazing country. I love being here. I love the people here. But I think my basic education started in India, and I
Right.
think whatever I got from there, I want to give back to that country in some form or the other. So
Love that.
that's my desire. That's why I want to start that charity for India. And it's not to say that it's not going to help other people, but at least I'm going to start there.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I think it's just giving back to your motherland. But again, I love America. I mean, I'm so thankful my parents brought me here. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you is about your profession, because you are a doctor.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the, like, I'm not a doctor. So what are some of the, maybe the stigmas or just things that people don't know about being a doctor that maybe they get from watching a TV show if you don't know one personally, it's like they
Real
just
life is very different
assume.
from real life.
Exactly. And so
it
I
is
just
it is a
wanted to
lot of
ask you about
work.
that.
No, it is definitely a lot of work, and that's why a lot of doctors don't have the time to be active in real estate. um, I am trying to find time because I'm passionate about it. And the thing with medicine is that if you're not passionate about something else, you will not have time to do that because it is a lot of work. I know that people see and people have this perception, oh, doctors make great money and they have a lot of money and this and that. But it's not just about the money, it's about the effort that goes into making that money and the responsibility that comes along with handling or managing human lives. It's important to understand that what's at stake.
Right.
So I think that adds an immense pressure. Mentally, you're stressed because of that pressure in the background, because at the end of the day, you're literally like, managing people's lives, and it's difficult. So it's you have to manage that stress. So I think that's the part of medicine that people don't understand. For example, I'll give you an example of my days. My day starts in the morning at 5 a.m. I wake up at 5. Today I was off, so that's why we're doing this podcast. But my day, on the days that I'm working, wake up at 5 a.m. I'm out of the house by 6 a.m. I start my work at 7 a.m. I finish my work at 7 p.m. By the time I get back home, it's 8:30. So, and that's when I have dinner, and then I have to spend some time with my kids, and then after that, I go to bed, only to wake up again at 5 a.m. the next day. So that's already a 15, 16-hour day, work day for me, working in a sort of a high stress environment, helping other patients. So it's not easy to do that.
Not at all. I mean, I have immense respect for people that do that because I mean, I think about it and all I've ever been in is in business or something like, office related. And I mean, it is a big pressure um, in certain aspects, but I would even say this to people. It's like, well, if you mess up in something, it's not like I'm a surgeon, and
Right,
life and death is in your hands,
right,
it's
right.
a different type of
And the
pressure.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that people don't kind of are they're not able to see is the fact, what happens before actually becoming a doctor. That's the training that goes into it. It's years and years and years of training. So for me, I did my medical school in India, so that's like 5.5 years of medical school training. Then you do residency. I did a residency in India. That was 3 years. Then I did a residency over here. That's another 3 years. Then I did a fellowship here. That's another 1 year. So if you add all of that up, that's like 10, 11 years that I've spent just training
Yeah.
before I can start working. So it's a long time that you spend. I was lucky that I didn't have student debt because, in India, medical school is like pretty cheap, and it's not expensive. But I know that people over here have a lot of student debt as well, especially with medical school. So that is the other aspect that people don't look at, or don't get a chance to look at, I would say, is that also plays into all of this.
Mm. What do you enjoy about being a doctor?
I love helping people. It's not just about helping people. It's more about the conversations that you have and the bond that you develop with the people while they're, with you under your care, and understanding what their family situations are, and trying to help them navigate through uh, complex social situations so that it becomes a winning, and, they have a winning position in all of this, the patients, I mean. So kind of helping them and helping the family find the right fit for their care when they leave the hospital. I think that's the interesting part of it. um, you know that's what I like.
Good, good. I think we all just want to help everyone, one way or another. I mean, if money aside, right? Like you want to
Yeah.
help people. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I mean, you're managing now a real estate business, being a doctor, which is long hours. You have a family, you have a wife, you have kids. How do you how do you do that?
How to do that? It is tough. It's tough, for sure. But I think I'm trying to invest in the future. Let me put it this way: that it comes at a cost, right? It's going to come at a cost, some in some form or the other. Whether it's going to be at the cost of the time I spent with my family, the time I spend at being a doctor, the time I spend doing real estate. And so I think that's part of the reason why large multifamily sort of is slightly better for me. And I feel like I'm gravitating towards that because it's a team effort. So I can take only a small piece of that whole effort and do that while I'm still managing the other things. So I think it's about finding, well, I shouldn't say it's about finding balance, because I don't think there is any balance in life. You're going to go towards one extreme, and then you're going to come back, and then you're going to do the other extreme and come back. And I think it's just about finding the right time blocks for different activities. When I'm at work, I'm at work. There's no way I can do anything about it. If I have a 12-hour work, I have to be at work. I'm not doing anything else. The good thing about real estate is that things move relatively slower. So even if I am at work, I'm not able to manage that. I can do it the next day or the following day, right? Or the next week, even.
Right.
So it's that's why I think it's for me it's a better fit. Um, but with my family, so the evenings, the days that I'm off, like for example, even today, evenings are for family. I don't schedule anything in the evening. I remember, and this I learned the hard way, because when I was doing my other podcast, I would schedule all my interviews in the evening or night, because most of the people are free at that time, and that was taking away from my family time, and of course that was creating some friction, and it was not the right fit for us. And so now I don't do anything in the evening. It's you really have to understand what you're doing all of this for. At the
Right.
end of the day, I'm doing this all for my family, and so if I'm not going to be able to spend my time with my family, what's the point of all of this?
Right.
And so now I don't schedule things in the evening. Even if there are meetings in the evening happening, I don't attend them, because I don't think they are more valuable than spending time with my family. But at the same time, say there's a meetup happening, or there's a conference happening once in a while, then that's planned well in advance. And I set the expectation, okay, this is the day that I'm going to be gone, or this is the few days that I'll be gone. And it is what it is, because that also needs my attention. But the other days I make up for it. So it's about just juggling these 2 3 balls and trying to find how you can find time for each of them.
I'm sure you have more than just three, because now you're like, I'm going to make another
Yeah, I
podcast.
didn't
And
count. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I have a few more balls that I'm juggling right now. I have this podcast. I have the new brand that I'm starting, and of course my physician job, my family, my own projects that are ongoing right now. Then there are a few balls that I'm juggling right now.
quite a
More than
few.
3 for sure.
Quite a few. And I think the funny thing is that most people that only juggle one ball or like two balls, like I feel like the people that are juggling like five or six, it's easier for them to just like add another ball to the mix, right? Um,
I would
than it
say
is
that
for other
it's
people.
it's. I will say that you can stretch yourself, and then you'll be surprised how much you can add. But I will say that it at some point in time you gotta understand that it's going to take quality away from something.
Right.
Uh, I wish there were 36 hours in a day, but there are only 24.
I relate. I can relate. But I think it's amazing what you're doing. And, before we got on, one thing that you mentioned to me that I loved, you were like, well, how long is the podcast for? Because I need to tell my wife, right? To just not call because I'm not working today. So sometimes she'll call. And so I'll let her know the time period because my phone is silent. But if my wife is calling me, the phone rings, okay? And I think that is a great tip for any spouse, not just husbands, or wives to do. Are there any other things that you implement in your marriage or with your kids? I don't know how old they are. So, um, to show them that they are a priority to you, when juggling all these other things other than, scheduling the evenings for them and things like that.
Yeah, I had this call recently with a coach, amazing woman. She's also a fellow physician, and we had this call, and we were trying to figure out how I can maximize my time. And I have only 24 hours, so what else can I do? She's like, "Well, what do you watch TV?" I'm like, "No, I don't watch TV. I watch TV and I get antsy. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I need to be working on something."
I understand.
So one of the things that I actually set was, setting important thing. The important point is to set goals for your personal life, whether it's family, whether it's with your kids, whether it's with your spouse, whatever you want to do, and set time aside for yourself. And so the one thing that I actually set time aside for was reading to my kids 10 minutes every night. And I think even those 10 minutes, if you read to them every night, and I'll be honest, I don't do it every night, but I'm at least trying to do it as much as I can. So that even if it's that 10 minutes, at least I'm spending that time with them. I don't think it's about the amount of time that you spend with them. I think it's about the quality of time that is spent doing activities with them that they enjoy. So that's how I spend time with them in the evening. Even if I'm like exhausted from work, I will come back and I'll have my dinner and then I'll sit down and read a book to them for 5-10 minutes. And it's 5-10 minutes. It's still an effort at the end of the day, but it's some things that you have to do and there's no way. Or I'll tell them a story or something like that. So it's an effort that you have to make. There's no way around it. um as for efforts with my wife, yeah, there are other things. There are certain house chores that she needs sometimes help with. So I'll help out either at night after I come back or in the morning before I leave. I'll help with a few things here and there, so that to offload her during the day, because she's really running around with the kids most of the day.
Yeah, she's being the good mom, the good
She's a
wife.
super mom.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Being a mom is a 24/7 job. There's
Yeah, and
no
add
off
to that the
days.
fact that, yeah, and she's a physician too, so add that to the
Oh
whole mix.
Lord. Oh Lord. She is a super mom then, that's for
She
sure.
sure is. She sure is.
That's amazing. Well, the last question I wanted to ask you has a lot to do with mindset that you mentioned. If there's someone here that, possibly is in that waiting period, we all have the waiting period where we're frustrated, where we see this big goal in front of us and we're working towards it, but you're not getting to the goal as fast as you would like. So, what would you say to someone that's going through that? Just as advice of, what they should do when.
That's a great question, because I struggle with this. And there's a book called The Gap and the Gain, and I would highly encourage people to read that, because what ends up happening is we're always, as entrepreneurs, we're looking forward. We're looking to what's the next goal and where we're going, but we do not stop to reflect on what we've achieved so far. And I
Right.
think it's important to understand um, what you were doing 6 months ago, 2 months ago, 1 month ago versus what you're doing now, and have you made any progress or not? And reflecting on the fact, if you have not made progress, well, what stopped you from making that progress that you wanted to make? So reflecting on the past and seeing where you've come is important. And if you have made progress, understanding the fact that you have made progress is just the way things are. And that kind of helps kind of keep you motivated and propel you forward to achieve your goals. So that's what I would recommend, because I struggle with this. It's a phenomenal book, The Gap and the Gain. So I highly recommend people read that book.
Love it. Yeah, I have the same struggle. Always. You're always focused on the goal, and then you get to the goal, and I can relate to you, right? You're like, "Okay, I did this. Next,
Yeah.
what's next?" And so you realize, okay, I mean, you've achieved other things. What have you achieved, So let's look at that as well. Well,
Yeah, a lot of times it happens that, like, I haven't done anything in my life. What am I doing with my life? Like, I haven't achieved anything. Where is this life taking me? So you're like, you're constantly in that phase where you're downplaying your successes. And it's
mhm,
important to kind of cheer yourself along with your successes, because that's going to keep pushing you forward. You will understand that, okay, I have actually achieved stuff. It's just taken this much time. I haven't recognized that I've achieved all of these successes. And so I will continue to achieve this success because I'm on the right path.
right. I think it's just choosing a path and going with it, committing to it.
Right. Right.
And yeah, and I think you're like reading my brain, right? It's like I haven't done anything with my life. What is going on? And then other people will come and say like, "Wow, you did this and you did that." And me personally, it sounds like you as well, is like, but that's nothing, right? Like you downplay your own achievements,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
why do you think we do that?
I think we're all success driven as entrepreneurs, and we're always looking at the next ladder to climb, the next step to climb. And I think because we're forward looking, we forget to look back and see how far we've come. And that's important to understand because we're always, I think the other part to this is also the fact that a lot of times people compare themselves to others who are successful, especially with social media. You'll see a lot of people
Right.
saying, oh, I have this and I have that and I have this flashy car and I have whatever. But it's easy to compare yourself to them and say, hey, oh, this looks easy, but why am I not getting there, and how come this guy's there? But you don't know that guy's story. You don't know what they've done to achieve that. You don't know how long they've worked, right, to achieve what they've achieved. So it's important to kind of not compare yourself to others, but to understand where you were a few months ago or where you were a year ago and where you are now. So compare yourself to yourself and see how your journey. Everybody has a unique journey, um, and there's no right or wrong.
We're going to leave it at those words of wisdom. I don't think we can get any better than that. But thank you so much for coming on. If anyone wanted to connect with you, maybe they have a deal in Cincinnati or Columbus and they say, hey, Dr. Avishkar, I want to send it to you and your team, or something like that, or where should people go to find you?
So they can go to Avishkar at theimmigrantdoctor.com, or they can actually, my website is under construction right now, and it is theimmigrantdoctor.com. So it should be up in the next week or two. And so if they want to find out more about me, they can go to theimmigrantdoctor.com. That's the easiest way to go there.
Love the brand. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to let you go back to your busy multiple balls of life and, kids, family, doctor, all the things. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed
Love
this.
it. Thank you so much, Marissa, for having me. This was an amazing conversation. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed
All right.
speaking with you today.